He joins us this morning on the Harbor One hotline. Hey, Bradfo.
Let's go. Chaim, what do you got for me?
McFarland!
All right. Hey, so I wanted Chris to do that because I wanted him to feel good about himself because he had one of the worst takes of all time in the 6 o'clock hour.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Yikes.
the comp of Taylor Hall and Mike Trout.
Okay,
Chris,
it wasn't like a 1-to-1 comp. I was
you
just
said
saying really
you said,
good player
quote
on an
unquote,
awful
quote
team.
unquote. You said Taylor Hall is the Mike Trout of hockey.
Yeah, I asked a question. I asked a really good player on an awful team.
Anyway, and by the way, you guys are welcome in advance for the highest rated July 4th show of all time. So there you go.
You are hosting?
Evidently, yes.
Who is with you?
I don't know. The great medium of radio is the real winner.
We don't need anybody else. The Bradford Show.
You go solo. It's 4 hours.
Talk about fireworks.
4 hours of baseball talk. I say.
Well, hey, listen.
Don't get people too excited.
Hey,
Again, you're welcome. You're welcome. By the way,
speaking of
Chicago,
keep your clothes on, ladies.
top three city. If we're gonna power rank, top 3 city. Just came back from Chicago.
All right.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if you're able to survive without being injured.
That's the south side.
Is it the food that did it for you, or what was...
the steakhouse along the river? Where there wasn't any murders there, and the steak was awesome.
Good.
So there you go.
That's good. Speaking of takes, what did you think of Chaim suggesting yesterday that the Red Sox picked the wrong guy when it comes to Xander Bogaerts and Rafi Devers?
I respect Chaim's opinion, and I like him personally.
Keep it real. Come on now.
Listen, like I wish they held on to Xander for a lot of different reasons, and he's slumping right now, and I think he'll be fine. He'll be good. I don't know if he'll be good for 11 years, but whatever. But if you're going to pick the two, and especially for that long a contract, as much as you feel uncomfortable about Devers right now, you still go with Devers. And I think what they have to do with Devers, I think, is get people around him. Yeah, you have good players around him, but you need great players around him to take some of the heat off. I think a lot of times, he's trying a little too hard. I hate saying that, but sometimes that just happens. We knew this was coming. I remember at the winter weekend, Chris Curtis, you were there.
Oh yeah.
I think, when Ortiz said this, he said, who's going to hit behind him? And Turner's been good, and Rashida's been good, but still, like, his security blanket was always Xander Bogaerts and J.D. Martinez, and he just seems like a different guy this year.
Well, Chaim was more about his lead. I think was more about being a clubhouse guy and being a veteran leader, but they kind of have that in Turner. I mean, you're there.
Turner's that guy.
Is he that guy now?
Yeah. It's not even close. I have not seen a player come into a Red Sox team in the first year and just automatically be basically the leader in the clubhouse. And he does it in a way where he didn't get there and give a speech, get on the stool and say, hey, everybody, I'm the leader. He just knows what he's doing. He approaches the right way. He's not overbearing with guys. He's a good player, which also helps. So, yeah, I mean, as good as Xander was, and he was important. You need more than one. So it would help if Xander was here, but in the meantime, there's no doubt about it that Turner's that guy.
Are you saying that, Rob? Are you saying that Ken bringing out the stool and standing on it when he became brand manager was unnecessary?
Yeah, I don't know why he had to say hit him high, hit him low. Give the verbatim speech from Rudy. I don't. Yeah, so you don't need that.
But, Rob, you look at this team winning 6 straight. We're all excited about this Red Sox team and the potential, and then they lose 4 of their last 5. Where are you on this team, and how late is too late for them to continue to do these high highs and low lows?
Well, as you fall back in the standings, and where I'm at is the same place that we seem like to be every time we talk, which is maybe, and it really is. It's so frustrating watching this team because they lose a couple, then they win on Friday, and then they basically should have won on Saturday, and they make an error, and it goes the other way. Then you lose on Sunday, you're back in the same conversation. I do feel, and I wrote about this, I do feel like as we sit here right now, you need to do something. And I know it's crazy early to do any sort of trade, But a year ago today was when Seattle did this Carlos Santana trade, gave up 2 prospects who aren't going to do anything. And they got Carlos Santana. They were 6 games under 500, and they went on to go 17-4. They ended up being in the division series. And I'm not to say that that's what the Red Sox are going to do, but you're taking on so much water while you're hovering around 500. It kind of feels like you need to do something here other than just sort of dispatch the boat, which is kind of what they feel like they're doing now.
Bradford, in the world of baseball, because we have this conversation, and I don't think it matters that much, but how important is it to really have, like, the leadership guys there? Or is it just more about basically having, good players, or players are, protecting Devers or an ace?
Well, I mean, I love Wiggy. I mean, you were obviously a leader on that Patriots team and the Panthers team and the Vikings team. There's no question about it. So I don't know if it's any different than football, but in baseball, it's the captain thing is so stupid to me. Mm-hmm. It's so dumb. Like the with all due respect to Jason Varitek, who was a leader in his own way, you don't throw a C on anybody's chest on a baseball team, because you need to have like leaders all over that clubhouse. The starting pitchers, the relief pitchers, the bench players, the position players, and it's important. So the biggest thing for baseball teams when it comes to leaders is to hold guys accountable. So when they aren't doing stuff the right way, the manager can only have his voice. The coaches can only have their voice. But you know as well as I do, Wiggy, that sometimes the player's voice is more powerful than any of those guys.
Right, but I think in football, basketball, and hockey, the locker room and the way the sport is different, because you see a lot of people in those sports giving these rah-rah speeches, or these speeches during the game. But in baseball, you don't really see that. How can a pitcher be a leader when he only pitches,
Right.
once every 5 days?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I mean, you have to. That's why the captain thing's a joke, because you have to have leaders all over that clubhouse, and really, it's also such a long season to give. We say this with team meetings. Like, they've had a couple team meetings. Like, they had a team meeting after the Shane McClanahan, or right before Shane McClanahan pitch, which was bizarre, because you're probably going to lose that game, and you have a team meeting, and the next day, what are you going to do? Have another team meeting? Like, baseball is such a long season. The biggest thing that leaders can do is when guys aren't doing the right things, they are showing up late, or they aren't working out, or they aren't putting in the work, or they forget how many outs, whatever it is. Like, you need the leaders to say, hey, cut the crap. We got to get our act together, or otherwise these losses are going to pile up. So I think that's where the baseball leadership comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Come August, because this is another Wiggy lead, which he's done several times. Come August, are both Chaim Bloom and Alex Cora still here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that what you have is so the Chaim Bloom conversation is up and down. It's the roller coaster. When they go in the 6-game win streak, they go in the 8-game win streak. Everything he's doing is right. And now you're looking at it as like, well, what are you going to do to trade that? You got to fix this. Meanwhile, there's some people saying, oh my goodness, they have 3 players in the futures game. The future is so bright. All right, well, we'll see. The problem is that you can't just keep finishing last here. You have to figure this out. And the reason why I say that I think that even though it's crazy early to make a trade, that it might not be the worst idea, is because this American League is so flawed. And we can talk about like how inadequate the Red Sox are this year compared to other years. But the reality is that if they do find a way to be a little bit better, then they're going to be in the playoff consideration. And guess what? You can beat any of these teams if you just get a little bit better. That's the reality of these Red Sox. But right now, when you're coming off 2 losses to the White Sox, and if you lose to the Marlins and then the A's, then it changed. The conversation obviously changes.
Let's go with the Parcells approach. You are who you are. So let's say they don't get to the postseason and they finish in last place again. Maybe it's not the All-Star break. Next year, are both Chaim and Cora here?
Well, I think that Cora's got one more year on his contract. I think that he's here. Because I think that if you don't get to the playoffs, it will be perceived. Right now, I think it's perceived as a talent vacuum, right? I think this they don't have the talent. And whether you can talk about injuries or whatever it is, but you got to find a way to keep up with the rest of the American League with this sort of payroll. And I know the payroll's down, but it is still Boston. You cannot do in Boston what all these teams that we're seeing is like everybody's praising the Reds and the Orioles and the Diamondbacks and all these teams who have like next to nothing payrolls for being good. Yeah, because it took them 8 years to build that up. You can't do that in Boston. That's not the reality of this. So I think that when it comes to the end of the year, like that's the thing that you have to say. Are you going to get talent? Or aren't you going to get talent? And I don't know if you can just say, oh, we got Marcelo Meyer coming up or Nick York coming up, because as we've seen with Tristan Casas, there's no guarantees with any of these guys. So, yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, I would be anxious to see if ownership steps in even more and say, hey, you know what? You can keep doing it this way, but we got to start being a little bit more aggressive in other ways as well.
But
It's
Rob,
very interesting, though, Rob. Sorry, Courtney. It's very interesting from Wiggy that he thinks these guys should lose their jobs 2 years removed from playoff wins when the Patriots, 5 years without one, should be perfectly fine.
Seems
Wiggy,
somewhat
fraudulent.
Would you trade Alex Cora for 3 first-round draft picks?
Nah, I don't know what first-round draft picks are worth in baseball.
But Rob, when it does come to ownership and you see Fenway Sports Group buying one of those or owning one of those TGL franchises, it seems like all of the owner's attention is everywhere else but the Red Sox right now. Where do you fall on that? Where are the Red Sox on their priority list right now? And do you think that could be an issue?
Yeah, so it's a good question, Cordy. I don't think that certainly if you go back to their run of, let's say, 2003 through whatever it was, 2018 even, that you have to say it's different, right? Because they weren't in on all these things. It sure seemed like they were more omnipresent around the team. They were basically like it was the be-all, end-all to them more than ever. Now, they had other things going on, and I understood this. They definitely have more going on than ever before, and we see that whether it's photo shoots in England or whatever it is. But I will say this. I mean, if you're running a business, you got to keep the business moving, and you can't just stay stagnant. So I don't begrudge them for looking at other things as long as you're continuing to spend the money and give the resources. That's where we say if they do not spend the money that they have spent before, because that's what we heard in the offseason, right? They're going to have more money to spend because they had all this money to free up, and they did spend money. They spent about $70 million committed to this year. Now, did they allocate it the right way? That remains to be seen. But if they start drawing back on actually spending money because they're doing these other things, that's when I would raise the eyebrows.
Bradfo, always a pleasure.
All right. I look forward to seeing you guys in studio on July 4th. Let's go.
I will be listening on the 4th of July.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Remember that this show and all of its potential is in your hands that day. All right?
Listen, I think about that every single time I walk by an Odyssey sign. So
all right. We'll talk to you soon. There's Rob Bradford. Thank you.